come on, yeah. Come on, yeah.
Gracious me!
Tottenham Hotspur are statistically the 5th greatest team ever to play in the Premier League, having been an ever-present since its inception 25 years ago. Despite not having won many trophies in that time, their squads have still consisted of some true PL legends, including PFA Players of the Year, World Cup winners, and world record breakers. My name is Josh, and this is the Tottenham Hotspur Premier League 11 Topical Team Sheet. Kicking off this topical team sheet is a Frenchman who is captain of both club and country, having been appointed Spurs captain in 2015. During his time at White Hart Lane, Lloris has often demonstrated remarkable strength, including losing consciousness following a collision with Everton's Romelu Lukaku, but controversially still managing to finish the game. He is considered one of the best currently playing in his position, and has played a crucial part in the rise of Tottenham Hotspur from Europa League entrance to title contenders. Easily the most controversial of the 11, Sol Campbell enjoyed a 9-year spell at White Hart Lane, before his so-called betrayal in joining North London rivals Arsenal. Making his debut in 1992, Campbell rose to prominence the following season, and his continued impressive performances led to being awarded the club captaincy by manager Gerry Francis in 1997. The 1998-99 season saw the centre-back enjoy his best season to date, as he skippered Spurs during their victorious Worthington Cup final against Leicester City, and was also named in the PFA Team of the Year. Despite the successes on the pitch, Campbell struggled with Tottenham Hotspur life off it, and he allowed his contract to run out before making the shock switch to Arsenal, for which, the official Spurs website states, he will never be forgiven. Gary Mabbutt is one of Tottenham's most legendary ever players, having amassed over 600 appearances in his 16 years of service. He joined in 1982 from hometown club Bristol Rovers, and would go on to be appointed as club captain 5 years later, leading them to UEFA Cup glory in 1984. Despite putting his side in front in the 1987 FA Cup final, Mabbutt would also end up scoring the winner for Coventry, but managed to reverse his fortunes 4 years later, when Spurs defeated Nottingham Forest to take the cup. The centre-back called time on his football career in 1998, going down as an all-time Spurs great. The fourth captain to appear in this team sheet, Ledley King is, in many ways, the polar opposite to Sol Campbell, having remained at White Hart Lane for his entire career, spanning 13 years. He began Spurs life as a midfielder, with his first goal for the club breaking the Premier League record for quickest goal, having scored after just 10 seconds. Injuries blighted what should have been the peak of his career, although he still managed to captain the side throughout some important club milestones, including the 2-1 League Cup final defeat of Chelsea, and Spurs' first ever Champions League match. He eventually retired in 2012, calling time on a rather unfulfilled career, yet still regarded by many as one of the toughest ever Premier League centre-backs. At right midfield is David Ginola, who, despite only spending 3 seasons at White Hart Lane, became one of the club's most popular ever players, thanks to his flamboyant style of play, which is perhaps best characterised by his incredible solo effort against Barnsley in the 6th round of the FA Cup in 1999. He ended that season as the first player to play for a club outside the top 4 and still win the PFA Players Player of the Year. Such was his on-the-field elegance. He was part of the 1999 League Cup winning squad, which would go on to be the only trophy he'd win whilst in England, and was inducted into the Spurs Hall of Fame in 2008, 8 years after leaving. The first of our centre midfielders is Darren Anderton, who enjoyed 12 years at White Hart Lane, initially as a striker, before impressing in his favoured position. He formed a great relationship with Teddy Sheringham, both on and off the pitch, with Anderton assisting both Teddy and the rest of his teammates 68 times in all, making him the 12th highest assister in Premier League history. Signing Luka Modric was about the only thing one day Ramos got right during his ill-fated spell as Spurs boss. After struggling for form under the Spaniard, Modric managed to find his feet following the arrival of new manager Harry Redknapp, who in effect shaped his starting 11 around the Croatian. The following season saw Modric play a key part in the Lily Whites achieving a 4th place finish, and a place in the following season's Champions League, in which he once again was one of the team's standout performers. Despite chairman Daniel Levy denying Modric the chance to move to Chelsea in 2011, he was eventually allowed to join Real Madrid the following season, with his final goal for the club being a 25-yard screamer against Bolton. Without question, the most technically gifted player to pull on the white of Tottenham, a 17-year-old Gareth Bale arrived from Southampton in the summer of 2007 for a fee of £7 million, with clearly a lot still to learn. In what became known as the curse of Gareth Bale, the Welshman, then a left-back, had to wait 2.5 years and 24 league games in the Spurs starting 11 before recording his first win. And that seemed to be the turning point in his career, as his influence further up the pitch became more evident, gaining a reputation as more of an attacker than a defender. His Champions League hat-trick against defending champions Inter Milan in 2010 shook the footballing world, and he ended the season as the PFA Players Player of the Year, whilst the 11-12 season saw him named in the UEFA Team of the Year. With the long overdue squad number change from 3 to 11, for the 12-13 season came his first Premier League hat-trick, and he also scored in wins against Arsenal and Manchester United. He ended the season as the league's 3rd highest goal scorer, and became only the 2nd player to win the PFA Players Player and Young Player of the Year, and the Football Writers Player of the Year in the same season. This, on top of his knack for scoring absolute screamers, convinced Spanish giants Real Madrid to make the Welshman their next Galactico, for a then world record fee of around £85 million in 2013. When it comes to club legends, longevity is often a key characteristic, but that is not the case for the first of our strikers, Jurgen Klinsmann, who enjoyed 2 single-season spells at the Lane. With question marks over the German's discipline, particularly when it came to diving, Klinsmann managed to answer his critics on his debut in 1994, scoring against Sheffield Wednesday before self-mockingly celebrating by diving to the ground. This sparked his popularity in the Premier League, and many were shocked and saddened when he returned to Germany at the end of the season. He returned to Spurs in 1997, this time on loan, and he virtually single-handedly prevented the club from being relegated, scoring 9 goals in 15 league games before retiring from professional football at the end of the season. Robbie Keane hit the ground running on arriving at Tottenham, notching 13 goals, including a remarkable hat-trick in his first season for the club. After being awarded the vice-captaincy, Keane's performances got even better, achieving his career best of 22 goals in the 06-07 season, before bettering that by 1 the season after, which also saw him lift the 2008 Carling Cup. His incredible record of being the first Spurs player to score more than 10 goals in 6 consecutive Premier League seasons was enough to convince Liverpool to pay £19 million for his services in 2008. But he only lasted 6 months at Anfield, before returning to White Hart Lane, where he'd spend a further year, before being loaned out to Celtic and then West Ham United, before being sold to LA Galaxy in 2011. Rounding off this topical team sheet is Teddy Sheringham, who joined Spurs in August 1992, just a week after scoring the first ever televised Premier League goal for Nottingham Forest. Such was his impact at both clubs that Forest ended up being relegated, whilst the player himself finished the season as the league's top scorer. He would go on to be the club's top scorer for 3 of the following 4 seasons, with the only exception being the 94-95 season, missing out to Jurgen Klinsmann. He later claimed that Sheringham was the most intelligent strike partner he'd ever had. In 1997, Teddy joined reigning champions Manchester United, and after winning the treble and a hat-trick of Premier League titles, the then PFA Player of the Year returned to the lane for a further 2 seasons, scoring a combined total of 26 goals. He departed for newly promoted Portsmouth in 2003, having confirmed himself as a Spurs legend. That concludes the Tottenham Hotspur Premier League 11 topical team sheet. Let's take a look at the squad again. In goal, Hugo Lloris. In defence, Sol Campbell, Gary Mabbott and Ledley King. On the right of midfield is David Ginola. In the middle are Darren Anderton and Luka Modric, whilst Gareth Bale completes the midfield 4. Up front are Jurgen Klinsmann, Robbie Keane and Teddy Sheringham. So there you have it, a team sheet with bundles and bundles of talent, with all 11 players incredibly unlucky not to have achieved more in the lily white of Tottenham Hotspur. This has been Josh for In the Dugout, your home of the beautiful game. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time when we take a look at another topical team sheet. Like, follow and subscribe for more content from In the Dugout, your home of the beautiful game.